This deep dive is powered by Growth Suite. Growth Suite helps you to run smart discount campaigns on your store. Test it for free on your Shopify store. Just land on the Shopify App Store now and test it for free. Welcome. Today, we're diving into a really core concept for anyone selling online: perceived value.
Yeah, absolutely essential.
We're going to explore how, smart comparisons can dramatically shift how your customers see your offerings, and ultimately how that fuels sales and, importantly, customer loyalty.
Exactly. And we're drawing quite a bit from Mohammed Tusekipan's article, Building Perceived Value Through Comparison Frameworks, E-Commerce Psychology.
Right.
Our mission here really is to give you some concrete strategies, things you can actually use to position your Shopify store's products so they really connect, especially when customers are, weighing up their options.
Okay, so perceived value. It sounds a little academic, maybe. Can we break it down? What are we really talking about in simple terms?
Sure. Think of it simply as what your customer believes your product is worth to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the price, right?
Right.
It's this kind of mental calculation they do. What they think they'll get versus what they have to give up.
Give up. Like money.
Well, money, yes, but not just money. It's also things like their time spent researching, maybe the effort involved in using the product, or even just the risk or worry they might be choosing the wrong thing.
Ah, I see. So it's much broader than just the sticker price. It's the whole package, the whole experience around the product.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Customers don't just buy products, they buy value. Think about coffee. That same cup might feel like a total bargain at $5 in a really nice upscale cafe.
Yeah, good atmosphere, comfy chairs.
Exactly. But that same $5 at a basic gas station feels completely different, maybe even like a ripoff.
Even if the coffee itself is identical.
Right. The context, the surroundings, the whole experience, it totally changes how we perceive the value.
And that feels especially true online, doesn't it? In e-commerce, we're just swimming in options. Every product seems to have a dozen alternatives just a click away.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's precisely why guiding those comparisons strategically is so critical today. If you're not actively shaping how customers see your value compared to others,
They'll just make up their own minds.
yeah, or they'll latch onto whatever comparison is easiest, and that might not play to your strengths at all. I mean, look at a company like Apple. They are absolute masters at controlling the narrative, painting a very specific picture of how their products stack up against alternatives.
Okay, so our brains seem kind of wired for this comparing thing. What's the psychology behind it that we, as e-commerce sellers, can actually tap into?
Well, one really fascinating concept is called reference dependence. Basically, we don't judge things in a vacuum. We always evaluate them relative to some kind of reference point.
Okay, like an anchor.
Exactly. The classic example is like a $50 pen. By itself, you might think, $50 for a pen. But if you place it right next to a $200 luxury pen,
Suddenly, the $50 one doesn't seem so bad.
right, it seems quite reasonable, maybe even a good deal. The pen itself hasn't changed, but the context of the reference point shifted your perception of its value.
That's so true. It's like seeing something marked down from a higher original price. That discount feels bigger because of the comparison, even if that original price was, maybe a bit inflated.
Definitely a common tactic. It leverages that reference dependence.
Yeah.
But value comparison isn't just about price points next to each other.
Okay.
There's also something called social comparison theory. This suggests customers are also comparing, maybe subconsciously, the version of themselves they imagine becoming with your product versus without it.
Ah, so like, who will I be if I buy this?
Sort of, yeah.
Huh.
Or who will I be compared to someone who buys the competitor's product? Will this product make me feel, I don't know, more successful, more fashionable, part of an in-group?
So it taps into our identity and how we want to be seen. It's not just functional benefits.
It's exactly right. If you look at it economically, it's still that benefits minus sacrifices equation.
Mm-hmm.
But the benefits part is broad. It includes functional, what the product physically does, emotional, how owning or using it makes you feel, and social, how it affects your status or relationships. And this is where positioning theory comes in. Smart brands try to carve out a unique, specific spot in the customer's mind relative to all the other options out there.
Like, what's the one thing you want people to associate with you?
Precisely. You're trying to own a particular idea or benefit in their mental landscape.
So by setting up these comparisons carefully, we're essentially helping customers focus. We're guiding them towards the aspects where we really offer strong value.
That's the goal. It's not about tricking anyone. It's about highlighting your genuine strengths in a way that resonates with what they actually care about.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned different kinds of benefits, functional, emotional, social, and I think financial was the other one. Value isn't just one single thing, is it?
No, absolutely not. It's multidimensional. And when you're building comparisons, you can choose which dimension or dimensions to emphasize.
Right. Let's break those down a bit in the context of e-commerce comparisons. How about functional value first?
Okay, functional value. This is the nuts and bolts.
Mm.
How well does your product actually do what it's supposed to do? How does it solve the customer's problem?
So, performance, features.
Exactly. You might use feature benchmarking, literally showing a checklist,
Yeah.
your features versus a competitor's. Or you could highlight performance metrics, maybe our battery lasts 2 hours longer, or like you said earlier, cleans 2x faster.
Got it. Technical specs, quality comparison.
All that fits under functional. But the key for your store isn't just listing every single feature. It's about identifying the, say, one or two functional aspects where you offer a demonstrably better outcome than the competition.
An outcome the customer actually cares about.
Precisely.
Yeah.
A professional photographer comparing cameras cares about very different functional specs than someone just wanting quick family snaps, right? Relevance is crucial.
That makes total sense. Focus on what matters to them. Okay, what about emotional value? That feels a bit fuzzier. How do you compare feelings?
It is less tangible, but super important. Emotional value is about the whole experience surrounding your product and brand. How does interacting with your website feel? What's the unboxing like? Are there sensory benefits? Does it look good, feel good, smell good?
Yeah.
Does your brand story, your personality, resonate with their own values or aspirations? Think about luxury brands. They rarely compete just on function.
Right. They sell a feeling, a lifestyle.
Exactly. Heritage, craftsmanship, exclusivity, these build an emotional connection, a sense of prestige or desire. For your e-commerce store, the takeaway is, identify the key feeling you want your product to evoke. Is it excitement? Comfort? Confidence? Then highlight the aspects of your product, packaging, brand story that reinforce that feeling, especially compared to maybe more generic or purely transactional alternatives.
So it's about the story and the feeling it creates, not just the object itself. Okay, how does social value fit into comparisons?
Social value connects to identity and belonging. Does owning or using your product signal something about the customer to others? Does it convey a certain status, taste, or set of values?
Like driving a certain type of car, maybe?
Perfect example. Think Tesla. For many owners, it's not just transportation. It's a statement about their commitment to technology, sustainability, maybe even being an early adopter.
Right.
Does your product connect customers to a community? Like people who use a specific fitness app might feel part of that group. Does it reinforce their identity maybe as a creative person or an outdoor enthusiast? Social proof, like testimonials and user reviews, plays a big role here too.
So you're comparing not just the product, but the club you get to join, in a way.
In a sense, yes. For your store, think,
Mhm.
how can our products help customers express who they are or connect with others? And then highlight that maybe through user-generated photos or by showcasing the community around your brand.
It's like the product helps tell their story. Okay, last one, financial value. We touched on price, but you said it's more than just being the cheapest.
Definitely. Financial value is the overall economic equation for the customer. Yes, price is part of it, but it's really about the price-to-value ratio. Are they getting the best overall bang for their buck?
So maybe something costs more upfront, but saves money later.
Exactly. Think energy-efficient appliances. Higher initial costs, but lower electricity bills. Or for B2B products, it might be about the return on investment. This software will save your team X hours per week. You also have the total cost of ownership to consider, things like maintenance, required supplies, subscription fees down the line.
Yeah, like printers. The printer might be cheap, but the ink costs a fortune.
Classic example. SaaS companies often compare their monthly fee to the huge upfront license cost of older software, framing their model as better long-term financial value. So for your store, look beyond the price tag. How does your product offer better long-term savings, efficiency, or overall value compared to alternatives?
Okay, thinking about these 4 dimensions, functional, emotional, social, financial, relation, really gives us a richer toolkit for comparison than just ours is cheaper or ours has more features. Now, how do we actually structure these comparisons? What are some specific frameworks we can use?
Right, there are several practical ways to frame these. The most straightforward one is probably direct competitor comparison.
Just putting products side by side?
Pretty much. You directly stack your product against named or unnamed competitors, highlighting your advantages. This often takes the form of a feature matrix or a comparison chart on your website.
Like those tables you see on software websites sometimes.
Exactly. You focus on your key strengths. You might also subtly point out where competitors are weaker, but you need to be careful there. Keep it factual. Avoid getting too negative. Often using phrases like, the leading competitor is safer legally and perception-wise than calling out specific brands.
Makes sense. But what if our biggest competition isn't another similar product, but a completely different way of doing things?
Great question. That's where alternative solution comparison comes in handy. Here, you're not comparing apples to apples, but maybe apples to oranges, or even to the idea of not eating fruit at all.
Okay, explain that.
So you compare your product to a different category of solution, or even to the customer doing nothing. A meal kit service, for instance, might compare itself not just to other meal kits, but to the hassle and time cost of traditional grocery shopping and cooking.
Right, comparing convenience to effort.
Or a streaming service, comparing its monthly fee and vast library to the cost and limitations of old-school cable TV. You're framing your product as the superior method for achieving their goal.
The classic Netflix versus Blockbuster story really highlights that kind of shift, doesn't it? Comparing streaming convenience to the fiction of renting DVDs.
Perfect historical example. It shows how powerful reframing the comparison can be.
Okay, what other frameworks are useful?
Another really effective one, especially for products that promise transformation, is self-referential comparison.
Comparing the customer to themselves.
Exactly. You focus on the positive change or transformation the customer will experience after using your product, compared to their current state or their before state.
Like the classic before and after photos for weight loss or fitness products.
Precisely. Or testimonials that vividly describe how a customer's life or business improved after using the product. You're painting a picture of their desired future and showing your product as the bridge to get there. The comparison is internal to the customer's journey.
That feels quite powerful emotionally. Okay, and the last key framework mentioned was expectation-reality comparison. How does that apply in e-commerce?
This one's interesting. It's less about comparing to competitors and more about managing and then exceeding the expectations you set for your own product and service.
So under-promise and over-deliver.
Essentially, yes, but maybe more accurately. Promise accurately and then over-deliver where you can. It's about closing any gap between what a customer anticipates getting and what they actually receive. Think about a company famous for incredible customer service or lightning-fast shipping like Zappos historically was.
Right. People came to expect great service from them.
And when Zappos consistently met or exceeded that high bar, it created a positive comparison in the customer's mind, not necessarily against a specific competitor, but against their own high expectations, reinforcing the value.
These are really practical frameworks: direct competitors, alternative solutions, self-transformation, and managing expectations. So now we know what kinds of comparisons to make. How do we actually build them effectively? It's surely more than just throwing up a quick chart.
Oh, absolutely. Building effective comparison frameworks requires some strategic groundwork. First step, you absolutely need solid competitive analysis. You have to know your landscape, objectively understand where you win and where you might lag.
Know thyself, know thy enemy.
Something like that. Second, deep customer research is non-negotiable. What benefits and features actually drive their decisions? What language do they use? What are their real pain points?
So you're comparing things they genuinely care about.
Exactly. Because you can't win on every single front. You need to prioritize, identify the, say, 2 or 3 key attributes where you have the distinct advantage and that matter significantly to your target audience. Focus your comparison there.
Don't try to boil the ocean. Focus is key.
Totally. And finally, the presentation matters immensely. Your comparison needs to be clear, easy to grasp quickly, totally credible backup claims if needed, and ideally memorable.
Clarity and credibility. Got it. So once we've identified those key comparison points, how do we best communicate them?
Communication strategy is crucial. Think visually. Charts, graphs, side-by-side infographics can make complex comparisons much easier to digest than dense text.
People process images faster, right?
They often do. Also, consider narrative techniques. Can you tell a story, maybe through a customer case study, that illustrates the comparative value in action? Data visualization is powerful too, making numbers engaging, and crucially, adapt your format to the channel.
How so?
Well, a quick, punchy comparison graphic might be perfect for Instagram or a Facebook ad. But on your product page, you might have space for a more detailed interactive chart or video. An email might use a concise bulleted list. Think about Apple's keynotes. They're masters of visual comparison and narrative.
Yeah, they always show that one killer graph or feature demo comparing to the old way or competitors. Makes sense, tailor the format. What about making it feel more personal? Can we customize these comparisons?
That's definitely the next level. Personalization can make comparisons much more relevant and impactful. Can you segment your audience and show different comparisons based on their likely needs or industry?
Like showing different ROI calculations for different business sizes.
Exactly. Or, even better, can you use behavioral data? If you know a customer has been looking at specific competitor products, maybe you can dynamically show them a tailored comparison addressing those specific alternatives.
Whoa, okay. That sounds complex but powerful.
It can be. Think about Amazon's Compare with Similar Items feature. It uses browsing data to offer personalized, relevant comparisons right on the product page. It's about leveraging what you know about the individual user or segment to make the comparison hit home.
So we've done the research, picked our key points, designed the comparison. Now, how do we actually get these comparisons out there? Where do we deploy them across the marketing landscape?
It needs to be an integrated effort, really woven into multiple touch points. Your website is obviously key. Think dedicated comparison pages for major product lines, interactive tools that help users compare options based on their needs.
Like that Casper mattress example you mentioned earlier.
Exactly like that. Also, clear feature comparison charts or callouts directly on individual product pages are vital. Then think about your digital marketing. Social media content can use those visual comparisons we talked about. Email sequences can highlight value comparisons, maybe when promoting an upgrade or comparing different tiers of service. If you have a mobile app, ensure that comparison info is easily accessible there too.
So embed it right into the core digital experience. What about broader content marketing?
Huge opportunity there. Your blog is perfect for publishing articles that compare different approaches to solving a problem, or reviewing different product categories, naturally positioning your offering favorably, of course, but aiming for an objective tone.
Building authority and trust that way.
Right. Videos are great for demonstrating comparative advantages visually. Infographics, as we said, simplify complex data. For deeper dives, especially in B2B, detailed white papers or case studies can offer compelling comparative analysis. HubSpot does a great job with comparison guides for marketing software, for example.
Okay, so content provides the educational, in-depth comparison angle. What about when you're actually talking to people, like in a sales process?
Absolutely critical there, too. Your sales team needs to be armed with clear, concise comparison points, maybe simple frameworks or slides they can use in presentations or calls.
So they're not just making it up on the spot.
No, consistency is key. Train them to ask good discovery questions first, to understand the customer's specific context and needs, and then tailor the comparison to highlight the benefits most relevant to that specific prospect. Comparison is also a fantastic tool for handling objections.
How so?
Well, if a prospect says your price is too high, the salesperson can pivot. They can use a comparison to highlight the superior features, the better long-term ROI, or the lower total cost of ownership compared to the cheaper alternative the prospect might be considering. Frame the value, not just the price. And finally, make sure your proposal documents clearly articulate your comparative value proposition.
It sounds like comparison isn't just a marketing tactic, but something that needs to run through the entire customer journey, even after the sale.
Definitely. Think about the onboarding process for, say, a software product. Can you subtly reinforce their decision by reminding them of the key advantages they gained by choosing you over others?
Combating buyer's remorse.
Exactly. Even routine customer service interactions can be an opportunity. If you solve a problem quickly and effectively, that implicitly compares favorably to potentially frustrating experiences elsewhere. Post-purchase emails can validate their choice. Loyalty programs inherently demonstrate increasing value over time compared to being a one-off customer somewhere else.
So the message needs to be consistent. You made the right choice, here's why, but adapted for each stage.
Precisely. Consistent core value message, adapted delivery for each touchpoint.
That really paints a full picture. Now, the article also mentioned tailoring these strategies for different industries. Does comparison look different in, say, retail versus services?
Yes, the emphasis often shifts because the core value drivers are different. In retail and standard e-commerce, optimizing those product pages with clear side-by-side comparisons, like Amazon's Compare with Similar Items, is often paramount. Category-level frameworks can also help shoppers navigate broad selections.
Makes sense for tangible products. What about something less tangible, like professional services?
Right. There, the value is often in the expertise, the process, or the outcomes delivered. So comparisons might focus on the firm's years of experience, specific specializations, client testimonials highlighting successful outcomes, or maybe comparing their structured process against a less defined approach from competitors. A law firm, for instance, might compare its success rate in a niche area.
Okay, so comparing expertise and results. How about tech and SaaS?
For tech, and especially SaaS, comparisons often revolve around things like integration capabilities. How well does it play with other tools the customer already uses? Ease and speed of implementation are huge. Scalability can it grow with the customer's business? And very often demonstrating a clear return on investment, or ROI, compared to alternatives or the cost of inaction. Salesforce, for example, offers ROI calculators.
Right, focusing on business impact. And consumer packaged goods, like stuff you buy at the grocery store.
There, comparisons might focus on formulation, better ingredients, maybe free from certain things. Sensory aspects taste better, smells fresher. Packaging easier to use, more sustainable. Or usage efficiency lasts longer, cleans more effectively per use. Think about method cleaning products, comparing their plant-based formulas and stylish packaging to traditional cleaners.
So the key is really understanding the unique value dimensions that matter most in your specific industry and building comparisons around those.
Exactly that. You have to tailor it.
Okay, so we've implemented all these fantastic tailored comparison frameworks across our channels. How do we actually know if they're working? What should we measure?
Great question. Measurement is crucial. You need to track relevant key performance indicators, or KPIs. Are conversion rates improving on pages where you've added comparison elements?
The bottom line effect.
Right. Also, look at engagement metrics. Are people actually using your comparison tools? How long are they spending on comparison pages? Are they clicking through?
Seeing if people find them useful.
Exactly. You should also try to gauge shifts in perceived value itself, though that's harder. Surveys asking about value for money, or analyzing customer feedback for mentions of value or specific comparisons can help. And definitely use A/B testing.
Testing different versions.
Yes. Test different comparison headlines, different formats chart versus text test, which attributes you highlight. See what actually moves the needle with your specific audience.
So continuous testing and optimization based on data.
Absolutely. Alongside the quantitative data, you need qualitative insights. Actively collect customer feedback through surveys, interviews, and monitor reviews. Ask them why they chose you, what factors were most important in their decision, what comparisons did they make.
Get inside their heads a bit.
Yeah, and keep tracking your competitive position. Are you perceived as a leader on the attributes you're highlighting? Are you gaining market share? Ultimately, you should see a positive financial impact too.
Like what specifically?
Maybe you're able to command a slightly higher price point because the perceived value is stronger. Maybe your customer acquisition cost, CPA, goes down because your value proposition is clearer. Or maybe customer retention and lifetime value increase because you're consistently reinforcing their good decision.
So it connects back to real business results.
Mm.
Okay, this all sounds great, but are there potential downsides? Any pitfalls we need to watch out for when using comparison frameworks?
Oh, definitely. There are risks. One is simply comparison overload. If you throw too much information or too many choices at customers, they can get overwhelmed and just not decide at all. Decision paralysis.
Analysis paralysis, yeah.
Right. Another risk is focusing too much on the negative aspects of competitors. While highlighting weaknesses can work, overdoing it can sometimes make your brand seem petty or less confident. It can backfire.
Focus on your own strengths more.
Generally a safer bet.
Yeah.
Also, be prepared for competitive responses. If you launch a strong comparison campaign, your competitors might react with their own potentially escalating things.
Like a price war, but maybe over features.
Could be. And if everyone starts comparing only on the same one or two things, especially price, you risk commoditizing the entire category, driving down value for everyone. Think about car insurance ads that just scream lowest price.
Right. It becomes a race to the bottom. We want to highlight unique value, not just be the cheapest.
Exactly. And then there are ethical and legal considerations. Your comparisons must be truthful and accurate. Misleading claims can land you in hot water legally and destroy customer trust. You need to be aware of advertising regulations and ensure fair competition practices. Transparency is key.
So be honest, be fair, be clear. Are there also practical barriers to just implementing this stuff?
Yes, implementation isn't always easy. You might face internal resistance. Maybe your team isn't used to thinking comparatively, or they're afraid of poking competitors. You might lack the resources, time, budget, data to do the research and build high-quality comparisons.
Technical challenges too, maybe?
Could be. Implementing complex interactive comparison tools on a website takes technical skill. And a big one, keeping the information up to date. Products change, competitors evolve, an outdated comparison is useless, or worse, misleading. It requires ongoing maintenance.
So it requires commitment and resources to do it well and keep it current. Okay, looking ahead now, how might technology and just the way people shop continue to change how we approach product comparison?
Technology is definitely going to keep pushing things forward. We'll likely see much more sophisticated AI-driven personalization. Imagine comparisons tailored not just to segments, but to an individual's specific needs and browsing history in real time,
Wow, truly one-to-one comparison.
potentially. Augmented reality AR is another big one. Imagine pointing your phone at two different washing machines in a store, or even virtually placing them in your laundry room via an app, and seeing a real-time overlay comparing specs, energy use, even user reviews.
Like the IKEA Place app, but for comparison, that would be powerful.
Very. Voice search will also evolve. People will ask their smart speakers more complex comparative questions, like which laptop under $1,000 has the best battery life for video editing? Brands need to structure their data to answer those queries, and maybe even things like blockchain could eventually be used to verify the authenticity of claims made in comparisons, increasing trust.
Interesting. So tech will enable more personalized, visual, and maybe verifiable comparisons. What about people themselves? How are consumer behaviors changing?
Consumers are definitely evolving. Different generations prioritize different things. Gen Z, for example, often places a higher value on sustainability and brand ethics when making comparisons than previous generations might have.
So the criteria for comparison are shifting.
Right. Trust in traditional advertising continues to fluctuate, so peer reviews, influencer opinions, and user-generated content become even more important sources for comparison. Consumers are also getting savvier, doing more research across multiple sources. And in a global marketplace, their expectations are shaped by best-in-class experiences from around the world.
So we need to be constantly adapting our comparison strategies to match these changing values, sources of trust, and technological tools.
Absolutely. The future likely involves moving beyond just feature checklists. We'll see more innovation around comparing the total experience, the value of being part of a brand's ecosystem. Think Apple again. How their devices work together adds value beyond individual specs. Maybe more collaborative models where brands and customers co-create value comparisons. And increasingly, comparing based on purpose and mission, how does this brand's impact on the world stack up?
Fascinating stuff. This has been a really, really insightful exploration of perceived value and how strategic comparison can shape it. If we had to boil it all down, what's the single biggest takeaway you want our listeners, especially those with Shopify stores, to walk away with?
I think the key takeaway is that strategically, thoughtfully, using comparison frameworks isn't just a nice-to-have marketing tactic. It's fundamental to building perceived value and driving real success in e-commerce. It forces you to truly understand your customer, understand your competition, and then get really clear and creative about communicating your unique strengths across all those different dimensions we talked about: functional, emotional, social, and financial. Don't just compete on price, compete on value.
Compete on value. Excellent summary. And on that note, here's a final thought for all of you listening. If you could implement just one type of comparison framework effectively on your store right now, maybe direct competitor, maybe alternative solution, maybe the before and after story, which one do you think would have the biggest immediate impact on how your customers perceive your offerings? What's the most compelling story that specific comparison could tell about your brand? Something to mull over. This has been a deep dive powered by Growth Suite. Growth Suite helps you to run smart discount campaigns on your store. Test it for free on your Shopify store. Just land on the Shopify App Store now and test it for free.